let's warm up a little bit. It's quite cold in Germany. If I may welcome my fellow colleagues, I see Azadeh. Hello, Irene is here from our faculty. Lina, obviously. And if I forgot someone, just please. Susan is here. If Grace is here. Yeah. So I would be happy to hear from you guys. What did you observe today, to allow our audience a little bit to get a few insights before we open up for the discussion. Who wants to take over? Yep. Okay, I see a hand up. Malak, did I pronounce your name properly? Please go ahead.
Yes. Yes, good morning to all, to everyone. My name is Malak from Lebanon. And hi, Carine, I missed you. Hi, Lina, hi, everyone. Okay, so for me, this is just to do a small talk about this session that I enjoyed a lot, because I relate to Carine actually as a mom and as a worker and multitask person. So this session, I felt myself in it, and I really had a positive impact, and it helped me like realizing really those questions and how it goes inside us as a mom and as a woman. So really it's something like magic. We have a clear thoughts, we have a very organized, we'll get a very organized thought, and really it's something beautiful to know yourself, and you realize that the fact that the coaching is a very, very helpful thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Malak. Great. I'm curious about other experience. Feel free just to share. And if you are not ready to share openly here, you can also type in the chat. I would be curious to hear about your insights. What did you observe in these coaching conversations? Or maybe you have a question. Then feel free to raise your hand. Malak, would you like to add something, as I still see your hand up, or share anything else? Okay, great.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm curious to hear from you. Azadeh, I think you wanted to go ahead.
I want to say thank you to the coach and to the client for giving us this opportunity to witness this conversation. And so what I'm appreciating is how the coach was able to support the client to see herself through the reflections of the coach, and also through the image that was created together, supporting the client to be able to see herself and to be able to learn a little bit more from herself, about herself in a creative way. So I'm really appreciating and celebrating that today.
Yeah. Thanks, Azadeh. Irene?
Hi, good morning from cold Switzerland. Thank you very much, Lina and Carine, for this beautiful story. It was so vivid for me. I'm a mother. I have struggled with career and balancing motherhood, career and womanhood, and being a daughter and being a sister, and I could relate. But what really stood out for me was the way Lina gently journeyed with Carine in this process of mirroring back to her the parts of her that she was not seeing. I mean, she was already having this conversation in her mind, and she was already making, taking actions to give time to herself as a woman. And yet there was still that voice that seems to be louder than the actions that she was taking. And Lina was able to so creatively and beautifully reflect to her that, yes, you can have both. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and you don't have to be guilty about being the core of your essence as a woman, in addition to being a mother. And I think for all of us who are mothers here, you actually coached all of us and make us feel beautiful about ourselves. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Erin. I can relate too. Thanks for bringing this up again. So if you are okay, I'm calling out all mothers here as well, but all our guests and students, let's use the wisdom of our coach a little bit, and you can pop in the chat some questions or just raise your hand. What would you like to ask the coach about today's conversation and what happened in the conversation? Just looking for your popcorn ideas. Just fill in the chat the questions to our coach, or just raise your hand if you would like to ask openly to Lina. Janet, I see you waving your hand.
Yes, I'm not a mother, and so I'm interested to ask the coach, at what point did she decide, or did she think about whether it was significant? She quite early on said, I'm a mother, I can empathize. My first question was, did she know the client already? And then the second question I have is, we, at the moment, I'm in week 3 of level 1 course. So this will frame it a little bit. One of the things we're being encouraged to do is to not share, like to be clean. And I realized that later on, when you're at MCC level, that doesn't necessarily continue. But I'm interested both from the coach's perspective and also from the client's perspective, how important was it that disclosure was made, is my first question. And my question to the client would be, was it important to the client that share was made?
Okay, thank you, Janet, for your question. So you were asking me if I know the client from before. Yeah, so Carine, she's my student. She was one of my students in my old cohort. So yes, of course, I know the client. She was one of my students. And what was the next question, sorry?
Did she know you had a child already?
Yes, she knows.
Okay. So that's fine.
Yeah.
That helps me, because it makes me realize that maybe she was very comfortable to share that particular issue with you because of her prior knowledge. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome, Janet. You build connection with your students, about them. And Carine also is my student support now. So I've been knowing her for the past good 7-8 months.
And that's why she could trust you, and you could take her on that beautiful moment where she began to learn that she could mother herself. It was beautiful.
And as coached also, as a mom and as a coach, I was able to relate with her. Like when I look back a few years ago, I was there. And I think most of us, like statistics says that 90% actually of women feel the guilt of mom guilt. We call it mom guilt. So I was able to relate with her as a mom as well, not only as a coach, And I think it helps sometimes while you are detaching yourself from the content, still relating and understanding what's happening with the client.
Great. Lina, Lina. Yeah, Lina, can I add one more contribution here so that
Please.
I can bring perspective into why are we doing what we are doing at the core level? And then why is it that when we go to the live coaching sessions, things doesn't seem to be the same as what we are taught at the core level? Is that okay? Oh, okay. I presume that's a yes. How many of you got this curious question? Like, we learned something at the core level, but then when we see the live coaching sessions, it doesn't seem to be quite the same. How many of you got this question that you want to ask? Okay, great. Now, allow me to walk you through the rationale behind it. Now, partly because of the way I was trained, the way that I was educated, and the knowledge that I have at the instructional design level, which therefore makes, therefore brings us, give us the added advantage of being able to structure a program in a way that is designed to achieve certain outcome. Now, how many of you played badminton? Raise up your hands, or who knows how to play badminton? Just raise up your hands. Okay, who knows how to take the badminton racket and hit the shuttlecock? Right. Now, how many of you know how to play tennis? Great. How many of you know how to play badminton and tennis at the same time? Aha, great. The similarity between the two sports is that you have to pick up a racket. Agreed? But the difference between the two sports is the way you use the racket. Agreed? Great. You might be thinking, what's the rationale here? Great. Now, we are using a transformational approach that demands the coaches to activate a certain kind of thinking systems at the back of their mind when they are hearing what the client is saying. So far, so good? Great. So it's not about the model. It's not about expand the mind, determine the focus, uncovering the gap, or use the handle question and blah, blah, blah. Because those are output. All right. The main input is how are you? No, the main input to the process is what is it that you are noticing, or what is it that you are paying attention to that you are using to respond to the client. Make sense? And that's where um, um, it varies a lot depending on how you are being trained on what to pick it up. So far, so good. So we use a very deep science to decode how clients tell the story, not so much in paying attention to the details of what people are saying, but how people construct their reality and present it to you as a coach. So from that angle, we are using a science to help students to be able to pick up information from what they are hearing and then use a learning framework or a learning mindset to then power the process. Partly because just like when you're playing badminton, you are so used to think in this manner, or you're so used to, use to hit the shuttlecock in a certain way. Analogically, it's like this is the way you used to coach before you attend the class of using a learning framework. Okay, so it tends to be a little bit more focusing on the details, what you're hearing, and your natural curiosity is more on how can I now bridge the gap, resolve the issue, or help the client to work around a solution. So that's basically the first three mindset that most coaches are familiar with. And just like how you started to play badminton, that you're so used to use your hand in a certain movement, then suddenly, you move on to play a new sport, which is tennis. Well, it looks the same. It's a racket with a ball that you're trying to hit. The court is a little bit longer, and the scoring is a bit different, but similarly, just take a racket and hit a ball. Right. However, the way you're using the racket now in a tennis court, playing tennis, is absolutely different from how you're going to position yourself with badminton. So far, so good. Great. So henceforth, we have to recondition your thinking system, especially we're using a deep science approach to power up the process. The coach needs to learn to recondition a new set of thinking around what you're hearing by kind of like focusing on subject matter, which is kind of what on the heck is subject matter, reducing that to just 10 words. All these are external form designed to interfere. Wow. Some of you don't like the word interfere because you like to hear the word improvement, but it actually did nothing to you to improve any capacity. It merely interfere your logical thinking to enable you to force the neuron connections to activate a more meaning-based thinking system inside you. Do you understand what I mean? Just like how many of you hate mathematics? Okay, some of you love mathematics. How many of you hate literature? Okay, whatever subject you don't like. Anyone? Okay. Can you see that to do mathematics requires a different way of learning versus doing a literature subject? Your mind are being activated differently, right? Linguistic language versus mathematics language, there are two different worlds altogether. Okay, chemistry versus physics. Okay, bio versus physics. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It requires a different attitude towards looking at things. So that's what we try to do at core level, to use external um, um, I don't know what we call that, external things like 10 words, subject matter, 10 words, subject matter, so that we can now reshape a learning attitude here in your thinking systems. Now, during this process, we had to make sure that we incubate you in long enough, for this system to settle down. Okay, so your natural appetite will be, okay, now I try to listen to the subject matter and inquire about that. Look at the subject matter and inquire of that. How many of you struggle at the core level, especially at the beginning part of the learning lab? Okay, how many of you struggle to say 10 words? How many of you struggle to pick up subject matter? How many of you just literally say, what's going on in the core level? You can see it is struggling at which level here. It is not struggling because you do not know how to do it. Got it? So basically what we do here is to recondition the thinking. And to do that, we had to reinforce a certain system and insist that this is what it needs to happen during this 12 weeks. By and large, some students pick it up relatively fast, whereas some requires a little bit more time. But by the end of the day, what you actually get is a learning coaching mindset from the core level with the ACC conversation as a model for you to guide a conversation. Right. And for those, that's why we always encourage students who have a huge appetite to want to increase the quality of the conversation or to bring change to a deeper level, that you need to move on with the next level to complete what you have achieved at the first level, to be able to turn the conversation a little bit more fluid, dynamics, and that's where training actually begins. Okay, at the second level, for those who wants to work deeply with a client. Got it? So that's why at the second level onwards, you tend to see things a little bit different from how you learn it at the core level. Given the fact that all things being equal, you only gain 48 hours at the core level. That is just too little, to let the horse free. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, to go wild on their own, right? So henceforth, in the first level, we make sure that students understand the principles first, with the big idea of condition a way of thinking. Is that helping to put things into perspective? Right? Then from second level to the next level, that's where you can see the coach adding their own voice. Because by that time, they are able to look at, the person of the clients as a entity by itself, understanding how the client is relating to the issue. So their ability to understand that, how clients is relating to the experience is far more mature than those who, just did the first level. Okay, so when that happens, that's where we can take them to the next level, where the coach find their own voice to dance around with the clients without losing the process. Does that make sense? Great. Just like how you tell your kids, especially those who got girls. How many of you got girls? Daughters. Yeah. That's how you tell them. Wait till you are 16 before you can wear high heel shoe. I don't know why, but that is, you know, you kind of set a certain age for the baby girl, you know, to be able to put on makeup and, you know, whatever that is, right? You set the age. Why? Why must be 16 and not 15? Huh? As a dad, tell me, Lina, why must be 16 and not 14? Like, what's so magical about, you know, a certain age? But the philosophy is the same, right? We wait for a certain, you know, maturity before we kind of like give the freedom to the kids. Cool. So with that, you know, that's why we kind of like, yes, do this live coaching session at the same time, you know, to encourage whoever, you know, feel, you know, desire to see the fluidity of a conversation. Cool. Great. I hope you enjoyed the time. I need to run now, so I'm going to pass the time back to Milena and Lina to continue the last part of the sessions.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben. Sorry, Lina.